The fallen leaves tell a story. The great Elden Ring was shattered. In our home, across the fog, the lands between. Now, Queen Marika the Eternal is nowhere to be found. And in the night of the Black Knives, Godwyn the Golden was first to perish. Soon, Marika's offspring, demigods all, claimed the shards of the Elden Ring. The mad taint of their newfound strength triggered the shattering. A war from which no lord arose. A war leading to abandonment by the greater will. Oh, rise now, ye tarnished, ye dead who yet live. The call of long-lost grace speaks to us all. Horalu, chieftain of the Badlands, the ever-brilliant Gold Mask. Fear, the deathbed companion, the loathsome dung-eater, and Sir Gideon Othmere, the all-knowing.
This is Elden Ring, an open-world, extremely punishing action RPG known for its deep esoteric lore and difficult gameplay. Elden Ring is one of my favorite games, and I'm extremely excited to be able to present this project. This project's main focus is on how Miquella and Marika's ascension to godhood were similar, but because no one understood a single word I just said, I'll give a brief summary of the game. Only brief, because if I went into depth, this video would be longer than it already is. So basically, the game takes place in a fantasy world called the Lands Between. There are also these things called Outer Gods. One of these Outer Gods, called the Greater Will, chose to send its vessel to the Lands Between. This vessel created what is known as the Two Fingers, and the Two Fingers chose a lowly shaman woman known as Marika, and made her a god. She would go on to have many children, who, due to her status as a god, were all demigods. Marika spreads the Golden Order, an order brought about with the Elden Ring throughout the Lands Between, and she steals the Rune of Death from the Elden Ring, marking the staple of her order. This rune caused people to die and rest peacefully, but with it removed, everyone and every being returns to the Erd Tree, a golden tree that is a divine blessing from the Elden Ring, and the very heart of the Golden Order. The Night of the Black Knives changed everything. One of Marika's children, Ranni, an Empyrean, which is someone who is chosen by the Two Fingers to succeed Marika, killed another child of Marika's, Godwyn the Golden. This marked the end of an age, and subsequently, Marika shattered the Elden Ring in an event known as the Shattering. She would spread the broken runes across the lands, and her remaining children would scramble for the runes in search for power. This is where our character, the Tarnished, come in. Our character is tasked with killing the demigods and retrieving the power of the Great Runes in order to reforge the Elden Ring and become Elden Lord. This all happened in a very long time span that not many people are sure of the determined length, but it's close to hundreds or maybe even thousands of years. Now that we're all caught up with the minimal knowledge, it's time to begin.
Mikula the Kind spoke of the beginning. The seduction and the betrayal. An affair from which gold arose. And so too was Shadow born. What followed was a war unseen. One that could never be put to song. A purge without grace or honor. The tyranny of Messmer's flame. And so kindly Mikula would abandon everything. His golden flesh, his blinding strength, even his fate. But we are not deterred. We choose to follow. Will you walk with us?
Here, we hear a character named Needle Knight Letta speak about Mikula, another child of Marika, who is also an Empyrean. According to her, Mikula spoke about the beginning, a seduction and a betrayal. But what was the beginning? What was this seduction and this betrayal he speaks of? To know this, we must go back before the Two Fingers chose Marika as an Empyrean. We start off in a place called Shaman Village. It is a small village hidden behind the Shadow Keep in the Shadow Realm. I'll get back to what all that is later. But if we explore this village, we find a minor Erd tree planted in the center of the village, illuminating the place with its radiant golden glow. We can interact with the Erd tree, and when we do, we pick up an incantation. Its description says, Secret incantation of Queen Marika. Only the kindness of gold, without order. Marika bathed the village of her home in gold, knowing full well that there was no one left to heal. If we head further up the village, we can find a statue of Marika with a golden braid sitting. This golden braid is an item we can pick up, and it reads, A braid of golden hair, cut loose. Queen Marika's offering to the grandmother. What was her prayer? Her wish? Her confession? There is no one left to answer, and Marika never returned home again. Both descriptions state that this is Marika's home, her birthplace, and it's a place she is very fond of. But why is this important? This village and many others within the Shadow Realm were once home to Shaman, a group of Numen women that were persecuted by the Hornsent. The Hornsent were inhabitants of Belurat and Ainur Ilim. They are a highly religious group of people who associated the spiral pattern, horns, feathers, and other aspects of the crucible with divinity. They believed that the flesh of the shaman women melded harmoniously with others, and so they would butcher and stuff them into jars. They would conduct rituals with these jars in an attempt to resurrect them as saints. Marika held resentment for the Hornsent for this reason, and she hated everything about the crucible. But when the Two Fingers chose her to be a god, she didn't immediately exact revenge on the Hornsent. Instead, she seduced them. When Marika stepped through the Gate of Divinity, this gate that we saw earlier in the trailer, she came out as a god. Yet, with her newfound powers, she didn't immediately get revenge on the Hornsent for what they had done to her people. Instead, she went to spread the Golden Order across the lands between. The Two Fingers chose other people to be Empyreans, so Marika went to squash any competition, including any other Outer God's influence. We know this from the Smithing Stone 8 item description, which states, thought to have been used to hone the weapons of the champions of the war against the giants in the birth of the Erd Tree. We also know that Marika convinced the Hornsent to accepting the Golden Order. In a video done by Vati Vidya, a YouTuber well known for his From Software content, he explains how rune arcs, something that come directly from the Golden Order, are enshrined in Ainur Ilim, and how stakes of Marika are found in Midra's Manse. He further explains that the description of the Sword of Damnation mentions Marika's Golden Order, and how the dueling shield states that it was an armament once used in ritual combat, performed to honor the Erd Tree. All of this is pretty damning evidence that Marika seduced the Hornsent into accepting the Golden Order. What's more is that she had to, in order for her actions to be considered a betrayal, as Mikola and the Hornsent call it. She had to have been aligned with them. She seduced them into adjusting their religion, into accordance to her order, and then, many years later, would betray their trust. This betrayal Mikola speaks of is the fiery crusade Marika's son Mesmer undertook on her orders. Before the shattering, Mesmer the Impaler was ordered by his mother to carry out a purge of the Hornsent. Mesmer bore a vision of fire, and he used this fire to scorch the lands that the Hornsent inhabited. This war was completely one-sided. While the Hornsent did have warriors such as the Divine Beasts and the Horned Warriors, they weren't a match for Mesmer's flame. Mesmer's army marched onto Ainur Ilim, and Marika would shroud it and the lands of the Hornsent in shadow. This shadow realm was sealed off from the rest of the lands between, and no one could get in or out without dying. But because Marika sealed this place off, she abandoned her own son, who continued the purge, awaiting for her return, not knowing she wasn't coming back. Mesmer would come to reside in the Shadow Keep. Not only did she betray the Hornsent, she betrayed her own son. Like I mentioned before, this betrayal didn't happen immediately. We can determine the time this purge happened by looking at R'Lana's helm, which says, Ornate Helm of R'Lana, the Twin Moon Knight, fashioned from silver steel. R'nala, head of the royal family of Caria, was said to have given her younger sister, who renounced her lineage to chase after Mesmer, a gift of lustrous black hair. The only reason I feel that R'nala would be okay with this is if it was during the time that R'nala was married to Radagon. Radagon was a great warrior amongst the Golden Order's ranks. R'nala and Radagon had faced each other in the First Liurnian War, which, by then, Marika had many children who had all grown up. Using this information, we can determine it took several years for this war to occur, and most likely not long after the Second Liurnian War occurred. which ended in Radagon and Renala's marriage, forming an allegiance with the Golden Order and the royal family of Caria. We can now say that it took several, if not hundreds, of years for Mesmer's purge to take place, because he would not have been old enough during the start of Marika's reign, and her other children, like Godwyn the Golden, only started showing prominence during or after the Liurnian Wars, meaning his purge most likely started after the Second Reign, where, shortly after, R'hllana left to join him. This purge lasted quite some time, too. The description of the remembrance of the wild boar reads, both were as elder brothers to the lion, and both were cursed from birth. In spite of, or perhaps because of this very reason, Gaius was both Mesmer's friend and the leader of his men. And the Blades of Stone sorcery spell, which says, Gaius and Radahn were good rivals in their youth, and this sorcery is a product of their friendly competition. The lion in the first description refers to Radahn. Knowing that Radahn, son of Radagon and R'hnala, grew up and admired Mesmer as a brother and to even be a rival to Mesmer's commander, we can say it was still happening after the Long March. The Long March is when Marika had no use left for her husband Godfrey, the first Elden Lord. After he had slain every enemy in their way, she had banished him and his entire army and race into exile, naming them Tarnished. During our fight with Mesmer, when we meet him in the DLC, he says,
That tarnished, it seemeth.
Mother,
Wouldst thou truly lordship sanction in one so bereft of light? Yet, my purpose standeth unchanged. Those stripped of the grace of gold shall all meet death. In the embrace of Mesmer's flame.
he knows what a Tarnished is, and is quite clearly not fond of them. The only way for him to know of this is if he was around during this time and had not been sealed away. When I feel Marika finally sealed off the Shadow Realm was shortly after Miquella and Melania's birth. When Marika banished Godfrey, she had called upon Radagon to return to the capital, where they married, abandoning R'hnala, and together the two had twins, named Miquella and Melania. But, as it turns out, Marika and Radagon were the same person. Yes, very weird, and I can't explain that whole thing, but as I had mentioned before, Marika is a shaman woman, and her flesh melds harmoniously with others, so she is two people. Due to this, both children were born with afflictions. Melania was born a vessel for the outer god of rot. In this case, Melania was afflicted so much that her body began to decay, and parts of her were falling off. Miquella was cursed with everlasting youth and abundance. While that may not sound bad, it is his naivety that gets the better of him. But both were chosen by the Two Fingers to be Empyreans. And because of this, I believe that Marika took this opportunity to seal off the Shadow Realm, and Mesmer with it, because she didn't want any of them to succeed her. The only other Empyrean children of Marika's was her half-daughter Ranni, and she would be the head of the royal family of Caria soon. So these two were her only threats, especially Miquella. Sealing off the Shadow Realm not only sealed away sins that shouldn't be seen by her successors, but also sealed off the Gate of Divinity, which is what turned Marika into a god. I basically went on this massive rant to say that the Purge, this betrayal, lasted for hundreds of years and continued after the realm was sealed off. Then, Marika made it so no one ever spoke of the Purge, Mesmer, or anything related to that realm, just so Miquella and Melania wouldn't attempt to succeed her, and take her place as God. Yet, despite her best efforts, they find out about it anyways, and Mikola becomes dead set on becoming a god, fixing what his mother did. Mikola is known for his everlasting youth, his abundance, his kind heart, and his vision of a world where all would be accepted. From a young age, he and his sister were very close, and she would swear to become his sworn blade and protector. He was a genius who developed fundamentalist incantations for his father, Ratigan, and mechanisms such as the pulley bow we see in-game. He even attempted to cure his sister of the scarlet rot which was afflicting her, and attempted to revive his brother Godwyn after the Black Knives killed him. Yet the ways of the Golden Order weren't working, so he abandoned those thoughts and sought different options. He created an unalloyed gold, one that could ward off the influence of outer gods, something that could cure his sister, and even help himself in his own goal. Yet it only stopped the spread, and she still bore the outer god within her. In an attempt to create a haven for those Marika deemed unworthy, such as those that bore the aspects of the Crucible, he grew a tree named the Halig Tree, out of his own blood to replicate the Erd Tree, yet it never grew to fruition. Everything he did in an attempt to rid this world of the influence of outer gods and his mother's sins failed. So he needed to become a god in order to fulfill his dream.
Lord brother, I'm going to be a god. If we honor our part of the vow, promise me you'll be my consort. I'll make the world a gentler place.
This is Mikola asking Radahn to become his consort in order for him to become a god, most likely sometime after the Shattering. Mikola needed this vow because he needed permission from Radahn for Radahn to be killed. See, the only way for him to enter the realm of shadow is to die. With this vow set, he sent Melania and her army marching towards Radahn and Caelid from the Halig Tree. I say this is after the Shattering because this is when Melania and Radahn fought, and Melania nuked Radahn with a Scarlet Aeonia after they had all received their great runes. The reason they fought is because Radahn was a warrior and wasn't just gonna die without a fight, and Mikola thought Melania was strong enough to defeat Radahn. She, in fact, was not. And this scene, we can see Melania whisper something to Radahn just before she nukes him. From the young lion's helm, we know what she says because in its description it states, "The golden helm worn by Radahn in his younger years, proudly displaying his heroic red hair. It is fitting attire for a lion." When Melania, blade of Mikola, let the rot flower blossom in Aeonia, Radahn heard a murmur in his ear. "Mikola awaits thee, O promised consort." This confirms she was there to kill him, yet Radahn survives, and all the while, Mikola had a subplot the entire time. He had also charmed Melania into thinking that he was going to use the Halig Tree to become a god, yet he had also charmed many others, including Moog, another child of Marika, Omen-born, and a vessel to the Formless Mother. He had Moog kidnap him while he was cocooned inside the Halig Tree, and while Melania was out fighting Radahn. He charmed Moog into bringing him to his dimension under the illusion they would rule a dynasty together, yet ripping Mikola from the Halig Tree killed him, sending Mikola alone to the Shadow Realm. Mikola charmed many others as well, gathering followers who also wished to see him become a god. Yet, when he disappeared, and no one knew where he went, his followers sought after him, and eventually found a way to reach him. In Mogwin, Mog's palace, lay the cocoon of Mikola, with his decrepit corpse lying inside it. Moog enshrined Mikola and built a religion out of him and the Formless Mother, another outer god. Mikola chose Moog for this because he knew, eventually, his followers would try to kill Moog in order to reach Mikola, though he wasn't aware it was going to be the Tarnished. Luckily for Mikola, the Tarnished also killed Radahn, after he went feral during the Radahn festival. So Mikola's plan was going accordingly. Mikola's plan was to use Moog's body and Radahn's soul to revive Radahn back into his prime form to be his consort to usher in a new age. This violates both demigods and betrays both of their wishes. Both were charmed by Mikola to do his bidding. Neither wished to be used in such a way. That's only the start of Mikola's betrayal, because in order for him to become a god, he must do something that betrays everyone. Shortly after Mikola arrives in the Shadow Realm, he begins shedding his flesh. See, Mikola shares something similar with his mother, making him just that more comparable to her. He has the same affinity for meldable flesh, so he's able to be more than one person, or even rid parts of himself. We can actually see in-game where Mikola does this, and it is these cross sites of grace. Each of these crosses hold a piece of text that says exactly what Mikola abandoned. The first, I abandon here the first of the flesh of my body. Then, I abandon here a part of the flesh of my body. I abandon here the flesh of my body. I abandon here the last of the flesh of my body. I abandon here my arm sinistral. I abandon here my arm dextral. I abandon here my eye. I abandon here my heart. Mikola is ripping himself of all that makes him him, stripping himself down to the core in order to become a god. Yet, he doesn't stop there. As we travel through the Cerulean coast, we reach other crosses that say something different. Instead of parts of himself, it reveals that he's also slowly removing any doubt from his mind in order to do something that he shouldn't. I abandon here my doubt and vacillation. I abandon here my love. This cross is set just before we enter a boss fight with the Putrescent Knight, and a spirit NPC has something to say just before we drop down. Kindly Mikola, I see you've thrown away something you should not have, under any circumstances. How will you salvation offer to those who cannot be saved, when you could not even save your other self? This other self, we found out, is Saint Trina. She is Mikola's other half, and has a deep association with sleep. She is an enigmatic and fleeting individual, and drinking her nectar will put you into an eternal slumber. As the NPC mentioned, he should not have done this, because Saint Trina will die when Mikola becomes a god, and by abandoning her, he has betrayed everyone that followed Saint Trina. Final thing that Mikola rids himself of is, I abandon here all of my fears, just as we reach Aner Ilim, where the Gate of Divinity is. After this, he is ready to become a god. But Mikola's betrayal still doesn't end here. Just before we, the player, reach the Shadow Keep, we get a message. Somewhere, a great rune has broken. Mikola stripped himself of all that is gold and broke his great rune. Doing this broke the charm he had on all of his followers, including the followers of Saint Trina. This charm caused all of his followers to get along and work together in order to see Mikola to godhood. But after the charm was broken, their true intentions were revealed. Leda, who we heard at the beginning of the trailer, begins to cull the followers, starting with a Hornsent follower. then a follower of Moog, named Donsbach. When we reach Aner Ilim, we face Leda, Mor, Dane, Freya, Tialier in an all-out battle, with us being the only remaining survivor. I did a personal experiment when playing this game to see if there was anyone else who could survive and cause us trouble, but in my own experience, there was only one person who could survive, and that was Ansbach, who ends up helping us in the battle anyways. Mikola betrays all of his followers by breaking his great rune, and as we head up to challenge him, we, the Elden Lord, are the only remaining opposition in his way.
My loyal blade and champion of the festival. Both your deeds will ever be praised in song. Now, the vow will be honored, and my lord brother's soul will return, so that he may be my consort. Lord brother. At long last you are returned. Tarnished one. Aspiring lord of the old order. If you have known sin, if you grieve for this world, then yield the path forward to us. To I, Mikola, and my promised consort, Radahn.
And after a long, hard-fought battle, we, the Tarnished, are victorious. And Mikola betrayed everyone he knew. In conclusion, Marika was born a shaman, and her people were tortured for this, so when she became a god, she seduced the Hornsent into accepting the Golden Order, and betrayed their trust by purging them. Mikola was born with an affliction of eternal youth, and was a genius who wanted to help others, but the Golden Order failed to help him. So he seduced everyone around him and made them follow his every order. He told everyone he would become a god and bring about an age where everyone would be accepted. Yet he betrayed everyone's trust, and everyone was killed as a result. The way the two became gods were very different, but the results are the same. Mikola wanted to rid the world of the original sin, yet performed a sin just as grievous as what he wished to destroy.